We'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Pike County Fiscal Court, and I would like to ask Mr. Whitey Gibbs if he would say the invocation for us. Yes, sir. Jimmy Dale, would you like to say the invocation? That's okay.
I'm slow getting here. Let's bow our heads, please. We thank you again, Lord, for another day. Thank you for the atonements you made in our behalf. Thank you for giving Jesus in our behalf. Would you bless everyone in this courtroom tonight? Bless the judge and the commissioners and all the people that work for the county to do what's best for this county. Bless all of our sick people, Lord. Most of all, let us dedicate ourselves to you. Help us to be what you want us to be in this life. And in the end, take us to heaven. In Jesus' name we pray and ask. And amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Whitey, would you like to say the, here in just a second, let's go ahead and do the roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Here.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
Here.
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. Mr. Gibbs, would you like to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We typically, Mr. Secretary, ask a veteran to lead us in the pledge. The next matter is the approval of the minutes for the May 1st, 2019 and May 7, 2019 meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The first item on the agenda is we have a very special guest here in the crowd tonight. We have Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Gregory Thomas, as well as District 12 Chief Engineer Mary Holbrook, and Ms. Jill Horn, who is a field representative for the Transportation Cabinet, who is our neighbor from Martin County. Welcome, Mr. Secretary, and Ms. Holbrook, Ms. Horn. We not too often do we have a cabinet secretary come from Frankfort, and particularly one that has a checkbook that can bring money when he comes. So I did learn that in my tenure in the state Senate, is always be nice to the cabinet secretary, particularly transportation. Sir, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Judge, and appreciate all your support while you were in the legislature as well, because we had some good discussions on their shift program and other things, so thank you for that. In terms of the Transportation Cabinet, we're about doing the governor's business in terms of his vision and direction, and for us, it's jobs, jobs, jobs. We're focused on jobs and moving the economy forward with our transportation. To that end, we're on the second cycle of our SHIFT program, which is our scoring model for projects. Statewide, the governor wanted some type of objective scoring model, and I think working with the legislature, which in the end it's their road plan and program, but they have agreed with us on the need for a scoring model. They've also agreed with us on the need to focus on our assets and our infrastructure. We went from a road plan that was about 2/3 capital projects, I'll call it the ribbon cutting projects, 1/3 maintenance, to about a 50-50 program, and I think that's good for the state, and working together, we've seen a lot of progress. I know you're familiar with the Bridging Kentucky program. We're just announcing 102 bridges on a design build for Eastern Kentucky. We just went out with that in terms of announcement. I think Marion Pike County's got 10 of those bridges. So that's going to be a real benefit to this county as well. But that gets us around to why we're here. But we're trying to make our way to as many fiscal court meetings as we can and talk to, the folks that know best, which is the local folks, about your needs. The governor recognizes, we recognize that we don't just have 28,000 miles of state-owned highways. There's 80,000 total, and all of it has to do with the economy. All of it has to do with jobs. And so what we wanted to do was make our way around. We're all short of funding. I think there's no doubt about that from a county perspective, from a state perspective. And so we felt like it was a good idea to partner with our counties. The governor does have some discretionary funding, and what we're doing is going around and offering a partnership to see what your critical needs may be. We're looking for projects that contribute directly to job growth, projects that contribute to job retention, or you may just have some critical roads in need of repair that really have no funding and no way to address the issue. So those are the types of projects that we're looking for. We're basically here to listen. It doesn't have to be tonight, but Mary's here, and what we would ask is that if you could give us a priority list, and we could work with the district, work with your superintendent, your foreman, and together work on the priorities, and we'll get that submitted to the governor and get it on the approval list, hopefully. So that's why we're here, and also to listen to you and in terms of your needs. We had a good discussion before this meeting too with the judge, and so already have some idea of your needs. But thank you for the invitation to be here. Mary's got just a few comments, but we would open it up for any discussion that you might have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there you go.
How about that? Sorry about that. Just wanted to bring you all up to where we're on the U.S. DOT build grant that I came about a month ago and talked to you all about. That has been given to our consultant, Integrated Engineering, and they've got about 35% of the application done. They are analyzing the crash data now, and then they've also they've reached out to Kellogg and Quest Energy for some data that they'll need for the application. So I'll keep you all, as we get closer, I'll reach out and send you an email on where we are.
Well, we appreciate the update. And Mr. Secretary, we've been very fortunate to have Mary and her staff, Mr. Weddington and Mr. Stanley. They have been super to work with, very helpful. When we've needed input or needed them to look at something. Okay. But we have partnered with District 12 in the cabinet on a U.S. DOT bill grant. Yep. Where we have committed to putting $500,000 in recaptured coal severance tax money into helping reconstruct a portion of the road from US 119 over to the Kellogg's factory. And of course, that is a perfect example of a project that will impact jobs, because that is probably the second largest or third largest employer in the county tax base besides the Pike County Board of Education and Tug Valley ARH Medical Center. About 400 employees, and I think they told us the average when Commissioner Robertson and Judge Hickman and myself went over and met with their leadership, the average salary is $55,000, and those are good paying jobs anywhere. Yep. And this project, in my opinion, would help ensure that Kellogg's understands that they're a valuable part of our community. We did have a long conversation before we came in today talking about problems like Ford Mountain. We had mentioned that one, and the fact that Pike County is not unique in that we have a lot of county road miles with limited resources. We just so that our constituents will know that we budgeted I think it was $890,000 next year for blacktop. And that sounds like a lot of money until you think when you have 1,200 road miles. It's not even
a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money. Maybe 25 miles of asphalt if we're lucky. And the fact that a lot of our road equipment needs to be replaced. We simply do not have the manpower or resources to take care of the roads that are in the system. But the District 12 office has been very helpful. The Bridging Kentucky project or program is going to take care of some issues that the county clearly would never be able to take care of. And the 80-20 bridge program is another program that we think is very important. What do you think that the future of the county and municipal road aid program is in light of the lack of funding in Frankfort?
Well, I think I characterize it as dire need. It's a dire need from the state perspective. It's a dire need from the county perspective. If we must address our funding issues, or that's one thing that's been a benefit is talking to, in virtually every county, with the exception of one or two or three, is in dire financial need of just sustaining their county road program, resurfacing program. I mean, it's getting down to the nuts and the bolts, really, the fundamentals. And so I fully understand that, and we'll be working hard from now until the end of the year to get ready for this next session in terms of funding. So I am aware of the need, and it's a dire need. So,
a lot of folks who don't keep up with state government may not be aware of where the money actually comes from to build roads and to repair and maintain roads. But the vast majority is from the motor vehicle fuels tax, the gas tax, and the rest is the motor vehicle usage tax. And those, Kentucky is a little bit different than a lot of other states in how we fund roads. What approaches are some of the other states? I know we hear from some folks over in Virginia, and some people will say, well, you can go to Virginia and buy gas cheaper, but I've always perceived Virginia as to be a much higher tax state than Kentucky, even if they fund their road system a little differently.
Yeah, I think of course, with the advent of hybrids and electric vehicles, I think all of us realize that the current structure of the I call it a user fee, but some people like to call it gas tax, but that's kind of the easiest structure now because folks are used to it. But there's going to have to be something in the future, like vehicle miles traveled or some other method of revenue collection. But for now, and I think my personal opinion, for at least the next 10 years plus, the user fee is probably the best avenue. Now, we just had the surrounding states, Ohio, just Missouri announced the doubling of their gas tax, 19 cents to 38 cents on the gallon. Tennessee has just raised revenue. So all the surrounding states, it's becoming quite clear from not only from a county and state level, but if we're going to compete for build grants, infra grants, and for federal funding, the current administration is all about how much skin in the game you have, and so that's going to require more state funding. The infra grant we received in Northern Kentucky was, is 67 million plus, but the total project was 150 million, and so that gives you some idea. If you're going to come to the table and have your hand out with the U.S. DOT grant program, then you have to bring more to the table. But I think the gas tax now, some states are using a corridor tax, if you will. Like for instance, if we decide we wanted to do I-71 and widen I-71, then some states are just passing a corridor tax on those fuel increases along that corridor, just because of the difficulty of getting something through the legislature. So there's vehicle miles traveled. There's other things being thought about, but so far the standard user fee structure still works today, and that's what I'll be pressing for in the next session, so.
Mr. Secretary, just to touch on this, to let the people in this county know how important the state transportation cabinet municipal and county road aid program is to the county. In the current budget that we have pending approval, $580,000 is budgeted for state and county, state blacktop and bridge contributions, $223,000 for truck license refunds, vehicle operators license $5,515, but the big chunk of our road budget is $2.4 million for county road aid. An additional $50,852 for municipal road aid. So simply put, without state assistance, it would not be possible for this county nor any other county in Kentucky to operate a road department. And we've seen other counties and the problems that they've had, even with state aid, like Knott County. Their road department stopped doing any kind of road work except for emergency calls back in the winter. I don't know if that's changed. What do you see as the future for county road departments in light of the financial situation? I mean, are we unique, or is this a problem that's taking place across the Commonwealth?
It's essentially taking place across the Commonwealth. You have some of the urban areas that are doing, I won't say doing fabulous, but at least they're sustaining their program. But when you get in the rural areas, it's a common problem. It's Western Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky. Virtually everywhere I go in the rural areas, this problem exists. So we're going to have to address it.
Well, any assistance that we could get in terms of discretionary funding would be greatly appreciated. Okay. What is the time frame for submission of a priority list?
As soon as you can get it, we can get it over to the governor's office and get that approval and get it done. So we don't have it's not a long drawn out kind of process. We just need our district to do a check on the roads, score the roads. What we do is we to avoid that brother-in-law paving kind of thing, we do a scoring model from the district level, and if the roads are rated 8, 9, and 10, then we just go we submit it for approval. So it's a critical need scoring is what it is.
Do we need to submit that to Ms. Holbrook or to? Okay.
Yeah. Jill or Mary, either one, really.
And Jill's been wonderful to work with. She's answered a lot of calls for assistance that we've had. I'd like to ask Mr. Fabian Little, our road supervisor, do you have anything you'd like to add or anything any questions? We addressed particularly the Ford Mountain issue before it. I think that's an issue that has plagued this county for many years. I know that Mary and Mr. Joe Stanley are very familiar, Mr. Weddington. That road, in reality, in my opinion, should have been a state road because it connects back into a state road, and it's a road that's heavily traveled by a lot of families, and the county simply doesn't have the money to do the work that needs to be done to that. So
we'll certainly take a look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? Commissioner Booth?
I got one question for Murray. Maybe she can help me out.
You might want to pull that mic just a little.
I had a call the other day about the old Nolan tow bridge. I know it's not a state bridge or anything, but can you tell me anything about that? He had a question was why West Virginia or Kentucky never did do anything with it to help the people on Lower Big Creek and Martin County down in that area with that bridge, which I know it was a private bridge and all, but I really didn't have an answer to give him, so it just seemed like a good opportunity to see if you know anything about it.
We've looked at that bridge, and that bridge was built by a public entity, so we had no way of knowing the structure of that bridge, so we couldn't certify the structure as far as the safety of the structure. So it's technically owned by West Virginia because it's how the laws are, I guess, with if the bridge on that kind of water. But we would have to build a bridge together. We've reached out to West Virginia, and they weren't interested. so we can't really build a bridge to another state without, some kind of input from them. So, but we had to close the bridge on our end because it was not safe, because we couldn't put a safety factor on it.
Okay, well, I didn't have no idea, so.
Well, that's fine.
Yes,
I get questions about that occasionally.
okay, yeah, well, he was just concerned because they'd put that Nolan school over and they had to drive around and
Yeah.
stuff. So I told him I had no idea, but I would ask somebody, so yeah, I appreciate it. And another thing we're having that Hatfield-Mccoy Marathon this weekend, and I was just wondering, maybe on one end of the 4-lane, on the other end, we could maybe get some signs up where there's runners on the road or something.
Did we use message boards before?
I don't think they had before, but they'd asked this time if we could put it up so the traffic would know it, where they start at Food City and then they'll be going through Blackberry and stuff and all.
Who can they contact?
Probably Nee Jackson
Okay.
at the Belfry Fire Department.
I'll get our sign guy to give him a call in the morning.
Okay, all right, that's all I had.
That Nolan toll bridge was an issue back when I was in the legislature, and we never could get any real cooperation with West Virginia to do anything. And the bridge was shut down. I think even West Virginia officials shut the bridge down because it wasn't safe, but it was privately owned, and there was never any way. That's something that we looked at, even trying to get the money and coming up with a collaborative agreement in West Virginia. We never could get to come to the table. Commissioner Tackett.
I'd just like to thank you, Secretary, for coming up here. You and Jill, Mary.
Yes.
Just thank you all.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Robertson.
We got some,
I just want to thank you all too for coming up.
okay.
We sure appreciate it. And we need all the road work we can get up
I
here.
understand. I do.
Thank you all.
Okay. We got some branch managers.
Yeah, I'd like
Introduce your
to,
branch.
I know most of you all know, but I'd like to introduce my staff in the back. We have Paxton Weddington, who is the branch manager for Pike County. And then Vince Hayes, he works in the section office. And then Joe Stanley, he's in our Pikeville section office as well. And then everyone knows and loves Sarah George. She's our public information officer.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here. Judge Hickman, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't, except for maybe one thing, and that's the Fellowship of the Miserable with county roads. It seems like it's good to at least hear that other people are having the same problem
Yes,
that we are.
yes.
And maybe something positive can happen out of your visit here. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
And maybe the other county judges and magistrates and commissioners Magistrates and Commissioners Association can work on a long-term solution to this. And one of the things that just for public digestion that we shared was the simple fact that a lot of county governments, school boards, utilities, we know the problems that Martin County Water's had, and we certainly hope that we don't go down the same path here in Pike County. But as I shared, our water district has about 5.7% as of 2015, 5.7% of the money put aside that they need to replace their worn out infrastructure and when it's depreciated, their infrastructure that's being depreciated. And the same thing is true for county governments and, again, school boards. We are going to have to take a long-term or a long, hard look at the long-term sustainability of rural counties and our school systems and so forth. But I appreciate the fact that you're willing to have that discussion, and certainly appreciate you being here. Sir, is there anything else that you'd like to add? And you're always welcome in the fiscal court.
No, I would add that for the I can't think of a county judge that's not supportive of raising revenue. So I think from a county judge perspective, from the local perspective, I think in terms of the leadership locally, I think we're there in terms of support. It's trying to move the legislature. So
Without some help, we are going to have major problems, not only in this county, but in many other eastern Kentucky counties, I would imagine.
yeah. Well, thank you for the invitation to address you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. Again, you're always welcome here in the fiscal court.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Pike County Pride Clean Community Board. I'd like to ask Mr. Jimmy Dale Sanders, and I assume Ms. Childers, are you going to Ms. Marie Childers, and I think Mr. Bruce Anderson's coming up. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Jimmy Dale Sanders, our Pride Coordinator.
This is not a bigger problem as the other problem, but we, in Foresight, we tried to do something to help the county, our board did, and still trying to do that. And we ordered some cameras, but we didn't know what we were going to get into. Me and Bruce he went with me to pick them up. And then Verizon, if I get the word right, they said we had to pay $10 a month per camera. And then that kind of stopped us because we didn't know they gave us 1 month free, unlimited pictures for 2 cameras. And they wanted to, so we just held up to present it to you all, the court, to make a decision on it. And we'll buy the cameras if you're willing to pay the $10 a month.
So it's my understanding we had some discussions about in areas where we've had persistent illegal dumping to put cameras up to where we could monitor the site, and if somebody's dumping illegally, we can catch them. Is that correct?
Correct. And it will have about, you can have at least 3 cell phones or maybe 4 cell phones be hooked up to it. And you can monitor it all the time. Somebody can always be monitoring it. And
Jimmy does it record also where we could go back and?
Yeah, it will. Even if somebody starts to get it, it'll show them getting it. But
so there would be a hard drive somewhere, or the cloud or somewhere we could go back and get the video if.
yeah, right. Right.
Because some of these dumps that we're using grant money to clean up have been cleaned up before.
Correct.
And you have Mr. Anderson, our solid waste enforcement officer. Bruce, how many people have you already cited since you took over that position in February? How many people have been cited or arrested?
It's up into the area of 80s at this point. If I can summarize, if Jimmy Dale, I think what Pride has done, I've been with Marie and we've been talking about how they wanted to help with this program that you've started, the enforcement program. They have purchased 2 cameras for the enforcement program with the illegal dumping situation. And with that, they've already got these things on hold with some questions still depending. They do record. The service that they use for these 2 cameras is Verizon. Verizon keeps the data. They're the hard drive, anything like that, or iCloud, we can back it up. It's live and it's unlimited photos. The Corps of Engineers who first told us about this, Jimmy Dale, and this program, was they have one. Ours, the one Pride is using or is bought for the county, is more upgrade than the one they had. They have a limited number, but as far as the end of the hard drive, the data, all of that, Verizon will take care of. That's there for us, just like it's the same as any service you would for a cell service.
So basically, it's $10 per month per camera.
$10, 2 cameras, yes, sir. $20 a month total for 2 cameras. First month is free, and it's unlimited data. The one the Corps of Engineers use, they have a limited amount, and theirs is $20 per. The programs that the people that are helping us and are enthused with this program, and Verizon's given us the first month free and unlimited. unlimited.
Now, I know in the past, Jimmy Dale, that when we've put some trail cameras up, that they were stolen. Is that correct? Are we going to be able to put these in places or in high up enough to where it would prevent people from stealing them?
Well, if they see them, they're gonna get them. That's the biggest problem with cameras. Everybody says get a camera, but they had $11,000 one was stolen in the lake, and as soon as they see it, they can take a shoot. They can shoot it or whatever, you know. But I think we got some hot spots in the county that they would probably help us. You probably have to have a license number or off of the vehicle, or you'd have to know the person personally. So it's more complicated than just saying put a camera up. There's more to it than that. And I think Mr. Anderson's done a terrific job, which I help him all I can, but he's got more power than I've got. He's got a badge and all that, but I don't want that. But anyway, I help him all I can, and he helps me. And we were interested in, I told I don't want to talk too much, but sometimes we get carried away. But
It's been my experience, Mr. Keene and I had a case, an injury case that was captured on video, and there was a picture of the individual who caused it put on Facebook, and within a day he was identified. So if we could just get pictures, we can put them on Facebook, and as many people as have Facebook, it's not going to be hard to find somebody. What I assume is that you're asking for the court to pay the $20 a month fee for these two cameras to see if this works. Is that correct?
and we'll pay for the cameras.
And the Pride Board will pay for the cameras. Is there a minimum term or minimum contract length for the Verizon?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay.
That's why we're
No, sir.
going to wait till we see what you all done. I don't want to say it in them terms, but what you all decide to do, then we'll go forward with it.
Mr. Anderson, you said we could cancel it at any time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
How many guilty pleas have you obtained to this point?
As of this point, the last I checked, we have 100% at this time of,
Do you know how many people that would be?
no, not the exact number, because I've got, the ones that are being served and the ones that's already been through the system, so no, sir, I'm sorry.
But it's several that have, it's my understanding there were several that have already pled guilty.
As a round number I can give you is up in the 60s that we've had guilty pleas.
All right. Well, there were some people who said, what can one person do? Well, if you ask the individuals who've been cited and brought into court, I think this at some point, if we ever have the resources we need to, you're never going to, Secretary Thomas was talking about creating jobs. You're never going to create jobs here if we don't have a clean environment. People come in here and look, do we want to go here to put a business in? And they see illegal dumps and garbage. That's not a place that a lot of people want to do business. And I think that this court has been committed to making sure that we do our part to clean up this county. It's too beautiful. We're going to talk about a trail system here in a few minutes. Not going to have a trail system that's going to be meaningful or that's going to be something people want to go ride if you've got garbage and illegal dumps everywhere. Jim, would you have any questions?
Judge, I'd just like to say that I was listening to the camera. The trail cameras, you got to get the card out to put into your phone to get the pictures. But the way they're explaining to me, this here is already on your phone straight from the camera. And I think that's a better idea, because if they do get the camera and you can't find it, you've still got them on your phone.
Mr. Commissioner, the cameras that Pride has graciously bought for the county, you can actually take your cell phone at any time, 24, it's live stream.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir, and it's color. And for example, when he said someone's shooting it, unless they're way off, you can even.
Right, we've still got them smiling.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And I'm sorry I missed Monday, but I had some things that had come up. But yeah, I like the idea on that.
Would there be a motion to approve payment of the amount of $20 per month to pay the cellular subscription fee for the two cameras that the Pride Board has committed to buying for our solid waste enforcement program.
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion by any of the other members of the court? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Thank you all very much. And you can proceed with getting the cameras and getting them out in the field.
Also, Your Honor, I've been told that there are several surrounding counties that are now watching our program.
You keep doing, you're doing a great job, Bruce, and, just keep up the good work. Appreciate
Keep up the work, Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
The next matter on the agenda is the authorization for the county affiliation agreement between the Pike County Health Department and Pike County Emergency Management in regard to the Pike County Medical Reserve Corps MRC unit. I'd like to ask our Emergency Management Coordinator, Director, Mr. Doug Tackett, to come up and explain this.
This is similar to the affiliation agreement that we do with our rescue squads every year. The Medical Reserve Corps needs one as well, so they can get the workers' comp through the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management. And basically, that's what it accomplishes, is provides them with workers' comp.
What is the Medical Reserve Corps? What is that?
Okay, it's a group of nurses and practitioners that have either retired or still in service, and they volunteer as a Medical Reserve Corps during disasters or other emergencies, if you will.
Thank you for the explanation. Is there a motion to authorize the county affiliation agreement between the Health Department and the Pike County Emergency Management Office in regard to the Pike County Medical Reserve Corps unit? We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Mr. Tackett, do you have anything else to add on this?
No, sir, I don't. Thank
Is this the same as last year's agreement?
you. Theirs is for 2 years, and it's the same as the last one that they did, yes.
All right. Each one has been for 2 years?
Yes.
All right. Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. I want to move over, before we address the LGDEF proposal for the trail system, I would like to move over to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the first reading of a proposed ordinance establishing the Pike County Trail Advisory Board. And this was a draft that we had done. I've talked to at least Commissioner Robertson about how we wanted to structure this and how many members we wanted to put on this advisory committee. And the purpose for the advisory committee, Jim, would you like to come up and just have a seat for a second? This was simply a draft ordinance for an advisory committee. Mr. Keene has done quite a bit of legal research, and he may have something to add. There are some statutes that talk about county recreation boards, things along those lines. He's also looked at the Henderson County and the trail system, Hopkins County, the trail system that they did down in Madisonville. There are a lot of issues to trying to put together a trail system. And as we know, the Kentucky Mountain Recreational Authority has had some meetings. We've had several members of the court go over. You've been over there, I think, haven't you? Is that correct, Jim?
Sir.
And, there's been talk about a trail system in eastern Kentucky, even back when I was first elected to the state Senate. It never went anywhere. Former Lieutenant Governor Daniel Manjardo tried to spearhead this. It never could get off the ground. one of the issues that we have to address before we do anything on this, and it's something that we've not got an answer to yet, is can we even get insurance for the county on a trail system? And there have been some, I've heard that it's not possible to get insurance. And while the county has sovereign immunity, potentially county employees that work on the trail system and do maintenance would be potentially exposed to personal liability if they negligently perform work. So if we send a member, Paul, of the Public Works Department out to do work on the trail system, or the road department, whoever it would be charged with that responsibility, and it was done negligently, potentially there's a claim that could be made. And it's just like now, if a county employee is sued, the county's insurance covers them if it was something that was done in the course of their employment. One of the first things we need to talk about is with the insurance carrier, Lloyd's of London, that will be taken over on July 1, is can we even get insurance on a county trail system? That, to me, is a fundamental first step that we don't have an answer to. We've had a lot of meetings over this. We had hoped to be able to move on this quicker, but as you know, with the tragic accident that happened a couple weeks ago, we've had to change some priorities and try to expedite the implementation of our safety program. Before we give a first reading to this, this is a proposed draft of and it's in the packets. I don't know if the commissioners have had a chance to look at that. Have you all had a chance to look at this yet? Jeannie supposedly, I had her send this out yesterday. Before we do a first reading on it, are there any suggested changes, or I felt that when we put this draft together that it was important to have at least 2 of the commissioners on it, because the whole purpose that we've set in this proposed administrative ordinance would be to have a board of 9 people, including 2 of the commissioners, to work on this project, to work on design, to work on the creation of the trail system, and how we would go about operating it and governing it, and particularly funding it. The structure would be that 2 commissioners would serve until the expiration of their elected term in 2022. The commissioner who is not on the advisory board would be able to appoint an individual for a term of 3 years, which would run from June 1st, 2019 through June 1st of 2022. Then the commissioner in future fiscal court terms would be able to appoint the person as their proxy. Then the county judge executive would have 2 nominations to be approved by the fiscal court. The first 2 would be for 3 years, starting June 1st, 2019 through June 1st, 2022. Then every 4 years thereafter, 2 members would serve an additional 2 years, June 1st, 2019 to 2021, then every 4 years thereafter. And then 2 members starting an initial term for 1 year, and then every 4 years thereafter. So it would have staggered terms where individuals coming in future courts would have staggered appointments similar to what we have for the Mountain Water District Board. I don't know how else we could do this. There was some talk about having each commissioner make so many nominations. I'm open to what changes that the members have. What are your thoughts, gentlemen? What are your thoughts, Commissioner Robertson? What are your thoughts about the draft versus changes to the composition?
I think what we've got here on this, administrative code, I think it'll work that way. I mean, I think it'll be a...
And we tried not to reinvent the wheel when this was put together. We like I said, we structured it similar to the way other commissions We've got a lot of people here. If you're here because of the trail proposal, hold your hand up. I know we've got several people here. And I think it shows that, people are interested in this, and the potential that it has for the county. But there's a lot of things that we have to consider in this. Would the members of the court suggest that we go ahead and give this a first reading so that we can act on it at the next meeting? So we have, Mr. King, would you please just summarize an amendment to the Pike County Fiscal Court Administrative Code, Section 190, establishing the Pike County Trail Advisory Board?
I will, Judge. And I'll just add, I have spoke to Rich Ornstein at CAECO at length about these, the trail systems. There's been various other counties who have attempted to do these. There's been a couple that have done them. Lloyd's of London was mentioned specifically. Rich was unaware of any county that's been able to get insurance on these trail systems to date. So that is something we need to take a serious look at as we move forward. That's something we definitely need to do. I mean, if we're in a situation, and this is just my opinion, I'm one of 4 members of the court. If we can't get insurance, that is a huge problem. Or if we get insurance and it causes the premiums to skyrocket, I mean, that's another thing we have to look at. Then we're going to have to go back and look and see. Commissioner Robertson, you had some concerns over the way that they were going to structure this Kentucky Mountain Trails or Recreational Authority trail system. Could you just explain what your concerns were over that?
Well, Jim knows about it too, and Sharon knows about it. They want a structure so they take total control of the county. All the money, what we issued permits or whatever to ride on the trails, it all goes to them, and they spend the money the way they want to. Pike County's a big county. I just think we need to be the leader. I mean, this has been talked about for 20 years. It's time we get on the ball and try to figure out something. But like Ray says, insurance is a big problem on this. I mean, we'll try to have to figure something out on it. But there's so much opportunity for this county with this trail system. I mean, it can go unbelievable what we can do with it.
One of the issues, and we touched on this a little bit, about the difference between Kentucky and West Virginia is the West Virginia basically funded their trail system. We met a few weeks back, was it Jim, with Thrasher Engineering. It was the consultant that helped do the Hatfield-Mccoy trail system. The one big issue with the trail system in Pike County, or just say Kentucky, is you have a lot more surface owners here than what they had in West Virginia, because as it was explained to me, the broad form deed where, coal companies came in, mineral companies came in years and years ago and bought the mineral rights, didn't buy the surface, whereas in West Virginia, they didn't allow that, and they ended up acquiring most of the surface as well. So when they did the trail system in West Virginia, it was a much smaller number of surface owners that they had to deal with in terms of getting easements or leases. Could you elaborate?
Yes, sir. I think right now Hatfield-McCoy's in 9 counties, and they only have 92 license agreements. I think when the initial study was done by Summit, there was almost 900, and that was over a decade ago. So that number has grown exponentially as well. So piecing that together in any county in Kentucky is going to be much more in-depth and detailed.
So in West Virginia, the Hatfield-McCoy Trail, you said 9 counties?
Right at 9 counties.
With 92 surface owners? Well,
92 licensing agreements is the
okay.
way Lusk presented that in the presentation to us. They don't own any of the land as an authority.
That authority was created as a public corporation by the authority of the West Virginia State Legislature. And as such, they have some special liability protections under the state legislature that their legislature passed. So that assists in that insurance process. I did reach out to George Poole, who underwrites the liability insurance for Hatfield-Mccoy. As George explained it to me, there's $1 million that the state insurance fund basically covers, and then there's a $9 million umbrella policy that's done through a private insurer. He has explored possibilities to see about coverage for us. To date, he's not been able to identify anyone. Their legislative structure, their organizational structure assisted, I'm sure, in that because the liability exposures are different. You know, being an attorney, a defense, which is what we have right now in Kentucky, is different from a constitutional or a piece of legislation giving somebody immunity.
Well, we do have sovereign immunity at the state level, and if the state had a trail system, the state would have sovereign immunity subject. You know, the only thing you could do at that point would be a Board of Claims case, except you still potentially could have liability against a state employee. But West Virginia set this structure up to address those purposes, and the landowners are going to have concerns about what their liability is. And we have for many years had a recreational use statute in Kentucky that says if you're the owner of property and you allow someone to use that property for a recreational purpose, even if it's, say, you let somebody use it as a softball field, as long as you're not charging for that, you're not liable for any injury. That could apply to a trail system, but you know, when you go back and look at the number, I think you said Summit identified over 900 surface owners. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And
So
that was substantially several years back.
So, and even though I'm not in favor of paying for another study because the study identified issues, you're still going to have to identify several different routings, proposed routings, because in theory, one property owner could stop the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Even if it's somebody that, you know, that owned a very small section of property, if they said, I'm not signing a lease or a licensing agreement or whatever we came up with.
Yes.
So hopefully, if we can put this structure in place, this is not going to be something that we can do overnight. I think you would agree with that. This is going to have to be very, very well thought out with the limited manpower. And what I think Commissioner Robertson, Commissioner Booth, Commissioner Tackett, and myself want to accomplish is to get some people who understand the issues, who want to work, because it's going to take a lot of thought into how we overcome some of these problems. The insurance issue may not be something that we can overcome because if one property owner says, you know, we'll give you a lease, but we want an indemnification hold harmless agreement, and we have no insurance coverage, you know, or they may say, we want to be listed as an other insured on your policy, you're out of luck.
Yes, sir.
And most likely when you would see that would be when you would be dealing with a coal company or a land company that handles these kind of transactions routinely. They're going to want to have some protection in place before they give any kind of agreement to the county or to some type of
You're
trail
absolutely correct, Judge. The larger tracts and those companies that we have approached, that's one of their first pieces of information they want to know.
So if I get sued, or how do you protect me from being sued? And if I get sued?
Yeah, they want to know how you're going to protect their liability, and in the event it goes to trial, what insurance provisions and indemnification provisions are you prepared to have to protect us? Because they have a board they have to, you know, answer to and be accountable to as well. So it's just not as simple as, you know, we want to be a good steward, which the majority of these companies do. they understand the risks as well, and we've got to make sure we identify and we address those risks, or you're simply not going to get the agreements executed.
So we're going to go ahead, and I'll ask Mr. Keene to go ahead and do the first reading on this. Then we can get this amendment to the administrative code in place in 2 weeks. Hopefully at that time, we will be ready to appoint the members of the commission or the advisory board, and then they can get together, figure out when they're going to want to start meeting, and we'll be able to start addressing these issues.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, Mr. Bevins, thank you very much. Mr. Keene, please proceed.
Sure. First formal reading of the amendment of the Pike County Fiscal Court Administrative Code, Section 190, establishing the Pike County Trail Advisory Board. The advisory board is composed of 9 members, 2 commissioners being appointed by the county judge executive, 1 member being appointed by the commissioner not serving as a member of the advisory board, and 6 members nominated by the judge executive and approved by the fiscal court. The terms of office are for 4 years and shall serve until their successors are duly appointed, except for the 2 commissioner members, and they will serve until expiration of their elected term. Any person appointed to fill vacancy shall serve only for the remainder of the unexpired term. The respective terms shall begin on the following dates, and succeeding terms shall end in 4-year increments from these dates, regardless of the effective date of the appointment. The initial board members' appointments shall be as follows. County Judge Executive initial appointments. 2 commissioner members will serve until the expiration of their elected term, the year 2022. Commissioner initial appointment. 1 member initial term shall be for 3 years starting June 1, 2019 through June 1, 2022, and then every 4 years thereafter. County Judge Executive initial appointments and approved by the fiscal court. 2 members initial term shall be for 3 years starting June 1, 2019 through June 1, 2022, and then every 4 years thereafter. 2 members initial term shall be for 2 years starting June 1, 2019 through June 1, 2021, and then every 4 years thereafter. And lastly, 2 members initial term shall be for 1 year starting June 1, 2019 through June 1, 2020, and then every 4 years thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. This will be in order for action at the next court meeting 2 weeks from today. Gentlemen, it would be my suggestion that we pass over the adoption of a resolution authorizing the funding of a trail system through a $100,000 grant application until we have a better idea about where we're going with this. It would save the paperwork. There's no point drawing the money down if we really don't have a concrete way to spend it. Would there be a motion to pass over this until we have a better idea of where we need to go with it? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. So we'll postpone that part of this until we get this advisory panel in place and then have a better idea about what we need to do. Mr. Stacy, are we ready for the second reading of the budget and the amendment to the 2018-19 budget?
Judge, I'd called down to DLG about 3 o'clock. He said that we should have the budget and the budget amendment signed off on by the end of the week, but it won't be ready for tonight's meeting.
All right. So the only thing that's holding us up, I think this is probably earlier than most of the budgets have ever been acted on by the Pike County Fiscal Court. And if DLG had had it, we would have had a budget in place almost a month before the deadline. So we should be able to do this at the next regular meeting without having a special meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, on June 18th.
Right. So we, as a matter of necessity, will have to pass over items 6 and 7 on the agenda. I'm going to jump around. I know that Mr. Little has training tomorrow in Elizabethtown. He is working on the Rhodes Scholar Program and has to be down there early in the morning. Mr. Little, I'm going to ask you to come on up and do the Pike County Road Supervisors report. I assume that it is this rather large list. So instead of reading all of this, in being here for quite a while. You may be here in the morning when class starts if you read all this. Would you just briefly give the folks out in the county an idea of how we're tracking, how this report's put together? This report looks like it's 15, 20 pages. And how you're going about using the computer system to track the work that's being done, whether it's completed, in progress, or scheduled.
Yes, well, it's basically as you guys approve our work to be done. Anyway, we will enter that into this spreadsheet, and then as it is completed, we'll just keep moving it down as completed work. We have ordered a program for the road department, which will allow us to track all of our jobs through that program. It'll be a lot faster. It will help out. I mean, I can pull up to a pothole. I can mark that pothole that it needs to be patched and filled, and the foreman can see that immediately that that I have marked that spot to be done, and it'll actually give the coordinates for him to come to.
So all the road foremen will have access to that.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to start out with them using it on their phones, but yeah, they will have access to it.
Before we entertain approval of the county commissioner's recommended road maintenance for the upcoming 2 weeks, do you have anything else you need to add?
No, not at this time.
All right. The next item on the agenda is there a motion to approve the county commissioner's recommended road maintenance for the upcoming 2-week period?
No.
We had a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. One of the things that we are looking at, I know you probably were going to mention it, is some counties, and this is something that we've talked to the attorneys at CAECO about, is we've had a problem with people whose driveways abut county roads putting their own drain tiles in.
And Judge, honestly, that is, you don't realize how much of an expense that is to us, because during times of high water, that is basically what tears our roads up. It's really not our drains, it's drains that are either not sized properly or are put in wrong. And it's costing us a lot of money. And I feel, I didn't get all the stuff that I wanted for the court, and that's the reason I didn't bring it up for you guys to act on this time. But it would save us a lot of money if we could do that program to where we could install those drains, and not only just installing them, but if we do that, we also get to dictate what size we put in, what size they have to buy.
And basically what I've asked you to do is, this program was explained to you by Rich Ornstein, who's one of the staff attorneys that was at Department of Local Government, now at CAECO. And I've asked you to get a written explanation of how this program will be done, but as I understand it, the county would have to approve any drain.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And then if the property owner bought the drain, the county would help with the installation to make sure it's done properly.
Exactly, and the county wouldn't spend any money. The only thing we would be out would maybe some man hours, but in the end, in the long run, we would be well worth it, because what we would save would outweigh what we're going to be spending in man hours.
So if it's not put in properly or it's not the right size, then you're going to end up potentially with substantial damage to county roads that we don't.
I know the people can't see it, but I gave an example of one drain in there, and we've been to that drain several times. I mean, it's not, you just keep going back to the same spots, and it's for the same reason. That's cutting the road out.
Right. So we'll be hopefully able to act on that at the next meeting if we've got the documentation. I think you've asked the road supervisor in Carter County to get you a copy of their ordinance so we can see how they do it.
Right.
They actually take it a lot further than what we're potentially going to do.
Yeah, they take it further than what I would ask this court to do. And like I said, I hadn't heard back from him, and that's one of the reasons, like I said, I wasn't going to bring it up. But it's still a good program. I mean, and it's worth it.
Fabian, will we be creating our own ordinance on this, the way we want to do this?
Yeah, pretty much. We can. Basically, what I'm asking for is just that we can install drains that are parallel, that run parallel to the county road, not us getting off the county road, and that way we know that they're put in right, and then also that they're the size. Because if we do this, then we can tell them what size pipe they have to put in.
That's usually the problem. They put too small a drain in.
It is. That, and then also, like I said, it's improperly installed. It can be turned toward the county road or and cutting the road out.
Yeah. Okay.
Fabian, you and I talked previously about concerns not just parallel, but perpendicular, water coming down driveways. And I'd ask you a question about would the style be important besides just the diameter and obviously the length, and talking in terms of grid drains? And would you tell the court your response to that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah. All right, like galvanized, like if we want to talk like galvanized drains, you're only going to get like 3 years use out of those drains if we put those in. So then, you're coming back. So, we're trying to just get away from, anything where we have to just repeat.
If I may, and Ronnie, this addresses a question you had. I did speak to Rich Ornstein, looked at the law, and the purpose of this program is to basically save the county road. If there's an interplay between these private drains and the county road, what we had was people putting the drains in themselves, putting it in negligently, too small, too large, and it costing the county money later on because they're having to come in and repair the road because of something that was done on private property. And when I talked to Rich, and the reason that we need to tailor our ordinance, Ronnie, is we don't want to do this on every time somebody wants to change the drain, but if the road foreman or maybe whoever it may be looks at it and determines that we need to do this to protect our investment in the public road, then we need to be able to do that, and it will save the county money in the long run, and we're authorized to do that under the law.
Mr. King, thank you. And once we get an idea of how we'll draft an ordinance on this, so that we can make sure that, and it does provide a benefit to the county's taxpayers.
It does, a big one.
But it really protects the taxpayers on the end of making sure that we're not paying for road damage repeatedly.
And believe me, honestly, 27 years, I'm telling you, I know that is the biggest cost. That's one of the biggest costs is the cost that we go through on the road department.
Have a safe trip.
So it protects the blacktop. What we need.
That's what I'm trying to say. It protects your investment, the blacktop.
Well, not only that, do I understand this right? If they buy the drain, we will put it in right form, right?
We will make sure that it's installed correctly.
And the right size.
Yeah.
Right size. We can specify under the ordinance that they have to have the drain approved by the road supervisor.
And see, then we can get Jimmy also, our floodplain coordinator. Jimmy can come in and tell us what size we have to have, which, honestly, we should be doing anyway.
Well, that's a benefit to the taxpayer anyway.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll have that ready.
Yeah.
And have a safe trip to Elizabethtown, and thanks for the hard work.
All right, thanks.
The next item is the awarding of bids. Mr. Phantom, please have a seat. And
Judge, we did a bid opening on May 31st, 2019 on bid number 19-2019 for 4 illegal dump cleanups, various locations countywide. I actually contacted 9 companies that have done some of this work for us in the past. I informed them that we were going to have a pre-bid meeting, just more or less to better explain the process. We had 2 of the bidders show up at the pre-bid meeting. On the bid opening day, May 31st, we only received 1 bid, and it was from Larry Young from Varney, Kentucky. And his bids are as follows. Site 1, Red Ridge, his bid was $5,000. Site 2, Camp Creek, his bid was $6,200. Site 3, West Virgie, his bid was $5,000. And Site 4, Big Branch, his bid was $5,800 for a total of $22,000 for all 4 cleanup sites. It's my recommendation that we award the bid to Larry Young on all 4 of the dump sites for a bid price of $22,000.
Let me ask Ms. Hall, how much did the grant total for these?
More than double that.
Do we? So even though we were given more grant money, do we get to keep that money? So we only can get up to that amount.
By April 2020, actually refund any money.
Okay.
The bids were, they were very low, but still they were a little higher than they were last year.
All right.
So they were about double. The grant money was double, 40 something.
Is there a motion to award bid number 19-2019 for 4 illegal dump cleanups at Red Bridge, Camp Creek, West Virgie, and Big Branch to Larry Young of Varney, Kentucky for a sum of $22,000?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Were there any, this was the only bid, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there any other question or discussion?
What all's in these dump sites? Just regular garbage or?
A lot of it's household garbage. There are tires, abandoned tires in those sites. There's one of the sites that has an old abandoned pop-up camper in it. A lot of it has wood and building material in it and various items.
He's going to clean all this up and take tar dump? Is that where it goes? Okay. Okay.
Has to go to our landfill, and we will collect a tipping fee from that.
Okay. That's good.
Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fan. The next matter before the court is Treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy.
The first thing I have is to authorize the following interfund transfers for the May 2019 financial statement, and I'll have that ready at the next court meeting. To transfer $300,000 from the general fund to the jail fund, and to transfer $300,000 from the general fund to the road fund, and this should be the only transfers needed through the end of this fiscal year.
Is there a motion to authorize a transfer of $300,000 from the general fund to the jail fund and $300,000 from the general fund to the road fund? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Stacy.
Authorize a check in the amount of $110,433.91. This would be draw number 6 and would be the final draw to Hawkeye Contracting for the work complete on FEMA Hazard Mitigation Project 4217, which is the Fish Trap Road to Upper Pompey Connector Road.
Is there a motion to authorize a check in the amount of $110,433.91 to Hawkeye Contracting for draw request number 6 for work complete on FEMA Hazard Mitigation Project 4217, the Fish Trap Road to Upper Pompey Connector?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion?
Are they blacktopping that road up there, Jimmy? Is that part of that contract too, or?
No, their contract is just road work and grade work to get full blacktop.
Oh, okay.
They already released, had the bid, had the bid
Okay.
Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Stacy.
Last thing I have is to authorize a check to the Kentucky Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund in the amount of $3,325 for unemployment reimbursement paid to Thomas Green.
Is there a motion to authorize a check to the Kentucky UI Trust Fund in the amount of $3,325 for unemployment reimbursement paid to Thomas Green? Would you explain this, please?
Judge, that is, as you know, we terminated Mr. Green, and he filed a unemployment claim, and this is actually probably a specific personnel matter. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into.
We don't want to go into specifics on personnel matters, but he was ordered, found not to be entitled to unemployment insurance benefits, correct?
That is correct.
So why are we having to pay it back instead of him?
Because if you read the letter, it says the employer is liable.
Okay. Can I see that real quick?
It says the office has determined that any benefits paid on the claim must be reimbursed by the employer. This employer chargeability ruling is for chargeability purposes and does not affect the benefit rights of the claimant. So it makes us responsible for paying it back.
Mr. Stacy, have you called on this matter and had a discussion with them?
No, I have not.
So we will be within the 30 days. The date this was mailed was 5/20/19. So the way I read this is that the claimant was required to make repayment. So I'm not going to, I think it's premature. I think before we authorize this, let's call unemployment insurance. Because if you read the additional rulings, it says that include your name and social security number on the repayment. If you read the part above. Can we call, have you had these before? Have we ever had one of these?
No.
Before we pay this, would it be okay if we passed over this till the next court meeting? Let's make a call
That's fine.
to make sure, because it's, I would,
The only issue I see is the written appeal must be received or postmarked by 6/4/19, which is today.
but I don't think it's us that has to appeal this.
So that may be.
I think that, that it would have to be, I mean, they can't get the money back from him and the fiscal court. So I would recommend that we just hold this in abeyance till the next court meeting, and you can call Frankfurt tomorrow. Miss Wireman, Emma Wireman, works for unemployment insurance. I've worked with her on these kind of matters. I'll give you her number. Let's call, see what she says. Let's call Frankfurt before we authorize payment of this, because I suspect that they're going to be seeking reimbursement from the claimant.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Stacy, you have anything else?
That's all I had,
All
Judge.
right, sorry about that. The next item on the agenda is executive session. Mr. King, please instruct the court on the relevant Kentucky revised statutes regarding executive session.
KRS 61.810, paragraph C and F, to discuss proposed pending litigation and to discuss specific personnel.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. We'll call the meeting to order. Is there a motion to adjourn from executive session? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, would you please present my recommendations to the court, please?
Yes, Judge. The following items are up for approval. It is approval to hire Grant Coleman as a mower at Road Lot 5 at a 3H rate of pay. Approval to hire Tommy Wright temporarily to replace Steve Burke as a truck driver at Road Lot 2 at a 3H rate of pay effective 6/10/19. Approval to hire Stephen Asbury as foreman at Solid Waste Area 3 at a 4A rate of pay. Approval to hire Sherry Skaggs as an administrative assistant in the purchasing office at a 2A rate of pay. Approval to hire Robert Atkins as a truck driver at Solid Waste Area 5 at a 3H rate of pay. Approval to accept Dwayne Hall's resignation effective 6/8/19. That is all, Judge.
Thank you. To clarify this, right now on Road Lot 5, there is no mower man, and they're way behind on the weed cutting in District 5. My high school teammate, Steve Burke, is off, and hope he has a speedy recovery. Tommy Wright will be replacing him. Steve Asbury is already doing the same job for the same rate of pay. Sherry Skaggs is a longtime managerial employee from Walmart, and she will be working in the purchasing office as an assistant to Mr. Fannin. I believe, Greg, that we've done a lot of things in the purchasing office to save the county money. I understand that you're extremely overworked up there, just trying to track purchase orders with the amount of goods and services that the county acquires. So hopefully that will provide some assistance to you. Robert Atkins will be hired in as a truck driver to replace Wayne Hall. So in reality, we're only filling one new position here. Most of the individuals are either working or will be filling in for individuals who are either out sick or to fill vacancies that we've had for some time. That is my motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? There will be some additional openings that we have due to various vacancies on some of the road lots and potentially in some of the solid waste lots. Is that correct?
That is correct, Judge.
Seeing no other question or discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the Pike County Department Supervisors' comments. Anyone have anything tonight? Next thing, Mr. King, do you have anything tonight? We have no one signed up for public comment. Judge Hickman, do you have anything?
Yes, just one thing, Judge. As we sit here in this meeting tonight, our solid waste guys, some of them are still out on the road working, doing catch-up work, and we are getting closer than we have been to recover from the 2 days lost last week, a holiday, and from Danny's funeral. So for everybody that's out there that's listening, we are still doing everything we can to catch up. We kept the landfill open late. We ran trucks late as necessary, and hopefully, Judge, by Friday we'll be in good shape.
Thank you, sir. And thanks to all the folks in solid waste for trying to get caught up after we missed 2 days last week. First due to the Memorial Day holiday, and then second due to the bereavement day that we declared on Thursday. The next item is Pike County Commissioner's comments, and I'll ask District 1 Commissioner Ronnie Robertson. Do you have anything, sir?
I just want to ask Paul if you could get with Ike sometime the next couple of weeks or something, and we could fix some kind of tool room up there in his shop, so we can get those tools locked up in there instead of just being open in that garage. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. District 2 Commissioner Jason Tackett.
Judge, I just want to, for people in the court here, I want to thank everybody that showed up Saturday to the horse ride up Lick Creek. Thought it was pretty successful. I think we fed about 80, wasn't it, Paul? About 80 people, 70 or 80 people eat. And what about 40 riders, 35, 40 riders? Went real well. Everybody enjoyed themselves. I just want to thank the workers of this county, just what they do for the people that don't understand what their job prescription is. And I want to ask you to please keep the Taylor family in your prayers as time goes on. That's about it, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brian Booth, District 3.
Yeah, Judge, I'd like to thank our road crews. We had some trees down the other day and some storms. They done a good job getting out, getting those trees cleaned up. I want to brag on Larry ain't here, but I pulled into the landfill Monday over there, and his roads and that landfill looked really good. And I just want to brag on Larry on what a good job he's done at that landfill. And this weekend we're having that Hatfield-Mccoy run over, starting at Food City. We're having that this weekend, I think. And then Saturday, the Mingo Pike Car Club is having a cruise in at the mall at 6 o'clock. Anybody wants to come over to it. And I want to thank Paul and his crew for all they've been doing up there, getting Hardy Pool going, and maybe somebody from Phelps if they're interested in that pool. They're doing a good job, though, getting everything going on. I want to thank them for that. That's all I have, Judge.
Thank you, gentlemen. That brings me to the Judge Executive's comments. First of all, this week, or last week, we had a meeting in Frankfort with the Commissioner of the Department of Local Government, Sandra Donahue, as well as representatives from the Army Corps of Engineers. And the Department of Local Government has committed to providing the $652,000 that we're going to need to enter into the 202 flood mitigation project. There's a few things we have to do. In the meantime, we are going to try to work with the congressional delegation. Hopefully Congressman Rogers will be helpful in obtaining a waiver of the 5% local match. Currently, it's a 95-5 match. So for every $95 that the federal government puts in, local government has to come up with 5%. DLG is committed to helping the fiscal court and Coal Run with the 5% match. This is a project that will probably be about 6 months before we have the written agreement back from the Corps. We did give them the go-ahead to draft the agreement for us to look at the request of the Commissioner of the Department of Local Government. So I thought that was very positive news. It was a very productive meeting. Also, we are moving full speed ahead with trying to implement an OSHA compliant safety program, something that should have been done years ago. I've had conversations with Mr. Tim Hatfield at Tug Valley ARH. They're willing at no cost to provide CPR and first aid training to the employees of the fiscal court. That's something that should have been done, and we will get that done. We've also had conversations, I believe, with the Red Cross, and I know that the Pikeville Fire Department has indicated a willingness to help with that as well. There's a lot of things moving right now. When's the next cruise in that the court will have?
Be the 16th here in town. It'll be the Scotty Hamilton Memorial. Andy's done bought the plaques. It's got the Scotty Hamilton Memorial on it as the cruise in. So I think it'll be the first 100 cruisers. We'll get one of those.
So that is a collaborative effort between the fiscal court and the city of Pikeville.
Yes.
And
Starts at 4:30 p.m. till the last car leaves.
and then we've had a lot of turnout for the first cruise in. And
Had, I think 137 cruisers and probably about 260 people showed up to look at the cars. And actually I've had four people contact me from schools wanting to fix food at the next one at Pike Central.
And just so people will understand, there's no cost to the taxpayers.
Not one dime.
And then I was up at the Lick Creek horse trail ride, and that was a great turnout. Paul, I want to thank you and all the folks in Public Works. Really good soup beans. Only thing we missed was some good fried pork chops to go with that. But we had a lot of people volunteering. Commissioner Tackett, appreciate his work on that. And we're going to be doing some things like that just to try to generate public involvement, let people know that we are wanting to improve the quality of life here. We have a lot of major issues that we do have to address, and the safety issue being one of those. So I think that's all I have for tonight. And as usual, if there's any problem, if you have a complaint, issues with solid waste of the road department, you can call 606-432-6247 to the judge's office, 432-6230 to the commissioners, and 432-6245 to solid waste. We do need someone to say the benediction tonight. Paul, would you like to say the benediction for us?
We bow with me. Lord, we come to you again. We just thank you, Lord, for everything you do for us. And we just thank you for this meeting we had tonight, Lord. And we just ask you to go with us, keep us safe until the next appointed time, and be with all the sick and less fortunate what we are. And be with the Taylor family, Lord, for their healing on it. And I ask all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Is there a motion for adjournment? We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.